For many years, John Hughes' name was synonymous with teenage comedy, with his early films such as 16 Candles and his screenplay for National Lampoon's Class Reunion. Now, they were all mostly set around the social dynamics of high school life, which was a stark contrast to the Porky's-inspired comedies of the time. Now, his 1985 film, The Breakfast Club, sits apart from all of those films because, as well as hilarious moments, it also carries serious issues, and there's much pathos in the film. It mainly takes place in a single room. That's the library in a local high school, where a group of rebellious teenagers have a detention over the weekend. As the film begins, that's what appears to be taking place. But as the recalcitrant youngsters get to know each other better, they start to realise they have much more in common than they first thought. And they end up becoming firm friends and exploring certain out-of-bounds areas in the school as well, with only a janitor and a resentful teacher roaming the corridors. Now, there were a group of young actors at the time who'd been used in films around that particular time. That included Molly Ringwald, Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, and Ali Sheedy in various comedies and light-hearted features. Now, John Hughes brought them together with an already successful Emilio Estevez as the misbehaving high school students, who for just one day are trapped in the school library. Now, they don't see many adults on that day, but they do see Paul Gleason, who plays the teacher, Mr. Vernon. He resents giving up his day to babysit these students, who he despises. The friendly janitor that they encounter on their travels is Carl Reed, and of course that's played by John Capelos. The film had a modest $1 million budget, and it's shot at the closed Maine North High School in Illinois. Now, the cast rehearsed for 3 weeks solid before filming began, and the scenes were shot in chronological order. The dance sequence, well, that was originally written for the character Claire in the film, played by Molly Ringwald. She was going to perform it alone, but at her single request, it was extended by John Hughes to include the entire group, and wisely so. Judd Nelson had practiced multiple versions of the ending before he finally settled on his iconic fist pump in the air as he strolled away across the sports field, where Hughes, of course, had that particular image freeze frame over the Simple Minds song, Don't You Forget About Me. Now, the soundtrack music was essential in this film, and John Hughes had often programmed the perfect accompaniment to scenes in his previous films. The soundtrack album that was released included Simple Minds, Elizabeth Daily, Wang Chung, Jesse Johnson and Stephanie Sproul, and of course there was Carla DeVito and Joyce Kennedy, as well as incidental music that was composed by the producer Keith Forsey. Now, the scene in the room in the library where each of the students reveal the reason why they're actually in detention. This, of course, means they've done something reprehensible, except, of course, for one student, which I won't name if you haven't seen the film. Now, this scene alone is worth a price of admission. It has some of the best performances seen at that particular time by young actors, and it reinforced the excellent casting ability that John Hughes had, and that he would repeat, of course, in later films like Planes, Trains and Automobiles and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now, of course, many of the actors featured in The Breakfast Club would springboard to even greater success in Hollywood movies, Emilio Estevez, of course, being one of the most prolific going forward here. Now, the narration spoken in the film included one-word labels that described the 5 students, aptly so. A brain, that was Brian Johnson, Anthony Michael Hall. A beauty, Claire Standing, Molly Ringwald. A jock, Andrew Clark, Emilio Estevez. A rebel, John Bender, Judd Nelson. And a recluse, Alison Reynolds, Ali Sheedy. And this tied up the ending beautifully, of course, save for Judd Nelson's character walking off at the end. Now, the children, or should I say the teenagers in the film, are really important. The adults aren't particularly important in the film, as they almost are incidental. But apart from the encounter, of course, they have with the janitor and Mr. Vernon in the film, all the other adults that appear are inconsequential. Now, this film has gone down as a classic teen flick over the years, and one which many teenagers of the 1980s still love and cherish. Now, the film received favourable critical reviews at the time. Particular praise went to the performances, of course, and the use of teenage dynamics, though some critics took issue with the sentimentality in the film and the dialogue used. There was a planned sequel which John Hughes had considered at the time, but thankfully this got cancelled, and rightly so. Some films just don't require a sequel. At the 82nd Academy Awards in 2010, Hall, Ringwald, Sheedy and Nelson joined in tribute to John Hughes, who had died the previous year. They were joined by other actors associated with Hughes's work, including John Cryer from Pretty in Pink, Matthew Broderick from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Macaulay Culkin from Uncle Buck. There is no doubt that this is one of John Hughes's finest films, but one of his many films which has given so much enjoyment to many cinemagoers and now, of course, to lovers of the Criterion collection. The film is already in the collection, and now we have one 4K UHD disc of the film presented in Dolby Vision HDR and one Blu-ray with the film and these special features. A new 4K digital restoration with uncompressed mono soundtrack, but we also have an alternate 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack. Audio commentary featuring actors Anthony Michael Hall and Judd Nelson. Interviews with actors Molly Ringwald and Ali Sheedy, and other members of the cast and crew. Video essay featuring director John Hughes' production notes read by Judd Nelson. 50 minutes of deleted and extended scenes, promotional and archival interviews, excerpts from a 1985 American Film Institute seminar with John Hughes, radio interview with John Hughes, audio interview with Ringwald from an episode of This American Life, a trailer and an essay written by the author and critic David Camp. And the cover art is based on the original theatrical poster, and that is designed by Annie Leibovitz. With its highly quotable dialogue and star-making performances, this exploration of the trials of adolescence became an era-defining pop culture phenomenon, and one whose influence now spans generations. The Breakfast Club has a running time of 97 minutes and comes in an aspect ratio of 185:1, and it joins the Criterion collection in 4K UHD with an existing spine of 905. So until then, from me, as always, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.